Right, hello everybody, welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Hopefully you guys are all keeping really good. Today we're going to be talking very much about the driver, and we're going to be talking about the most common mistake that amateur golfers make with the driver. Now, the difficulty with the driver, and the reason why most amateur golfers struggle with it, is because the common amateur problem is that what's known as our swing plane, which is this sort of imaginary sort of 2D line that you can see here. The idea is that we're trying to swing sort of up and down that sort of line. And what happens with most amateur golfers is that they have a more vertical swing plane, which essentially means that they're coming down on a more vertical angle. Now, particularly with the driver, if you start returning the club shaft more vertical, you have a much greater chance of off-centre hitting, and you have a much greater chance of actually leaving the club face more open because the club shaft is returning more vertical. It kind of just makes the club face want to be pointing more towards the right-hand side for a right-handed golfer. And that's an issue, because when you hit the golf ball with an open face, or a really open club face, you're going to start to produce a lot of spin. And when you start producing a lot of spin, you're going to start losing a lot of distance. And then you're going to be questioning whether it's worth hitting driver, because your hybrid probably goes just as far. And the reason why your hybrid will go just as far, or you probably don't need it that much further than your long irons, is because, well, when we hit a hybrid, we stand closer to it, and like we do with the mid irons, and therefore the closer we stand to the ball, the more vertical the shaft plane is. The further we stand from the ball, the shallower that shaft plane is. And that's the issue. So what we need to understand is that when we're hitting these longer clubs, the club shaft we're standing further away, so we have to try and find a way to swing on a shallow angle, and that's why it exposes us. Now, what tends to happen, and the reason for all of these videos is because they're the habits that I tend to see with people that I teach, is that golfers don't rectify the swing plane issue, and what they do instead is they either subconsciously or consciously start to close the club face at address. Now, the issue you've got when you close the club face at address is you're either going to hit it with a closed club face and it's going to go shooting off down towards the left-hand side, or you're still going to have to open the club face anyway, and the fact that it's pointing more left for a right-handed golfer means the more it's going to open anyway. So it probably doesn't improve you as much as you like to think. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video. So for golfers who are quite slicey, what we need to do is we need to understand how we're going to get the golf club more on plane, or with the driver, should we say, on a shallower plane. And the answer to this is going to come in the form of two things. The first one is that what we want to do is we want to get the feeling as we start the downswing that we're trying to get more of a sense that we're sort of pulling the hands and the arms more down to the side of the body, like so. So don't get me wrong, I'm still rotating my chest and everything else that we've always spoken about on the channel. But what I'm trying to say is we're trying to get the feeling of, as we're rotating, we want to really be feeling like we're pulling the hands and arms down to the body, because this helps us get the club still on that swing plane. And then what we want to be doing is, as we get closer towards that golf ball, we still have to make sure that we are closing that club face. So there's going to be an element of a rolling sensation coming in towards that hit. That's something that we really want to be getting, because very hypothetically, if you can get that sort of backswing, getting that club down, okay, so you're bringing that club shaft on a much shallower angle, not such a vertical angle, on a shallower angle, and then you can kind of close that club face, then you're going to have a great chance of converting that sort of horrible slice into a much more efficient draw without having to increase the club head speed at all. And that's the way that you're going to have to sort of just get a feeling for it, is just get a feeling for, as you're hitting some drives, swinging back, and feel like more like a pump drill would be a great exercise, where you sort of swing up, you can still move your body towards the target, and you can still do things we've talked about before on the channel, where if you're thinking of getting more up and through the ball, but as we're doing this, you want to feel like you're pulling the hands down, so it gets us coming down on a shallower plane. So then we can get that club moving up and through, and it makes you much, much more efficient with the hit. And you're going to hit the golf ball further, and it's potentially going to feel like you're hitting it further with less effort. So you do have to understand that if you are a slicer, it is a potential club face issue. But you've also got to be asking yourself, why are you slicing? And the answer is not just tweak the club face. you've got to be understanding your swing plane, and you have to understand the big difference between your iron and your shorter clubs is because we're standing further away, we have to find a way to swing on a shallower plane. That's why you probably want to change the feeling and think more about what your hands and arms are doing, and that's going to give you a much better chance of success. Catch up with you guys again really soon.